start. Go ahead.
Just looking back, you said you need to look at the Louisville film before you can kind of digest the good as well as the bad. What do you see today that maybe just wasn't sort of at the forefront of your mind?
Well, I think the biggest thing, it was a great experience to go in there and play. And in a venue like that, I mean, for the first time away from home for numerous players, to go into that venue and to play that kind of team, I mean, we're going to get better from that. I mean, we did a lot of really good things. And I think what to me, there's no question the rebounding was the biggest difference in the game, our lack of blocking out, and really our lack of attacking the offensive glass, because we felt we could do that, and we didn't do that. We didn't do that with the energy and the effort that we've got to have, and we really need to find a way in a game like that to steal baskets. But defensively, we chase the ball too much, and when you're chasing the ball and you're not defending shooters, and they had got their spacing was very good. And we ended up over-helping and creating openings that we can't do. And when we've really tightened that up, we've been better. And we didn't do a very good job of that at all against Louisville. But really the rebounding was the biggest thing, the chasing the ball. And then offensively, we made some poor decisions, especially going to the basket. When you attack the basket, you want to have a clear vision. And you can't predetermine, especially against the better teams, you can't predetermine what's going to happen. You want to have a clear vision, not tunnel vision. And too many times we went to the rim with tunnel vision. And we felt we could get to the rim, and we could. But you've got to go and you've got to understand where the shot blockers are, how to keep the possession alive, or get by the initial wave of defense a little bit quicker. We were on the attack at times, and when we looked really good. And when we were a little bit more stagnant and not driving the ball as hard or making some of those poor decisions with the ball, offense wasn't nearly as good. And then the second half, we took some tougher shots rather than making the next pass. And our passing was not, for a team that passes it pretty good, our passing wasn't even close to where it needs to be. And again, we wanted to attack, we did. It wasn't about a set offense, it was about playing offense, moving the ball. When we got good ball movement, we got very good shots. When we didn't get good ball movement, we played right into their hands. And I think those are the biggest things we take away from the game. But so much of it's correctable, especially with moving the ball, because we've done such a very good job of that. And we're going to get better rebounding the ball. We're going to get better with more effort to the glass offensively, get those numbers up, because we're a good foul shooting team, and we need to get fouled more. But we're going to improve our blockouts. And at the same time, you just have to go in and pursue the ball sometimes. And you're not going to win as many 50-50 battles against a team with that kind of length, so you've got to be able to be in the fight and win the physical battle, and be in the physical battle, not necessarily win it all the time, but be in the physical battle. So I think those are the biggest things that we took away from it. But there's a lot to learn after every game, and that game gave us as much to learn and to grow from as any game we've had.
Mike? When you go back to, I don't want to go too far back, but when you go back to Montreal, when you go back to the preseason, it looked like Troy was really ready to play poised, play confident, and maybe take that next step forward. It doesn't seem like we've seen that from him so far.
He's just continuing to work, and I'm not, are you basing it on, well, I'll just answer your question the way you asked it. He's continuing to get better. He's made a lot of improvements in a lot of different areas. I think you look at the body of work of over a period of time, of how much he's improved. There's no question he's got to slow down at times, but he's capable of playing sped up, and the simpler he makes the game, the better he'll be. And we're asking him to do a lot on this team. He can do a lot for this team, but the simpler he makes it, the better he gets defensively, the better he gets on the backboards. We need his athleticism in all areas, but when he gets to the rim, and Victor went through this. I reminded him and the whole team of this yesterday, and you can see it on film. Victor went through the same thing. They go to the rim as athletes rather than going to the rim as basketball players. And when you're really, really athletic, like Troy is, and his vertical's gone up considerably, and he already could jump to the sky. When you have a player like that, you've got to continue to get them to understand how fundamental they have to be, and not just rely on athleticism. Because he's been able to rely on athleticism to a pretty high rate for a long time. But now we need that athleticism to come out more on the rebounding side. We need that athleticism to come out more on the defensive side. So one of the strengths of this program is to take athletes and make them better basketball players, and to take basketball players and make them better athletes. Troy has a chance to be outstanding at both, but he's got to continue to work at all those things that matter the most, which is getting to the glass, defending, running the court consistently, running to the glass. I can't really answer your question the way that you said it. I mean, if you look back at some of the games, against Pittsburgh, he played a pretty good game. You know, he got behind the defense. Those were things that he weren't doing a year ago. So I'll just answer it that way, in the sense that he's improving with a lot of room for improvement and really wants to improve.
Yeah, Tom, just thoughts on Grand Canyon and what?
Grand Canyon is well, first off, Dan Marley is doing a tremendous job. We went to school together. He's a year older than me. At Central, he was a heck of a lot more popular, and what he did, and we got to be friends, and I've enjoyed following his career for a long time, and a big fan of his career. One of the most competitive people I've ever had the privilege of knowing or watching, and brought that out in the way that he played, and really was a great example for me for all the years as a coach, because here's a guy that came into college, is basically an inside player, but because of his hard work, because of all the extra time that he spent shooting the ball and working on his game, he made himself into an NBA guard, and I think that's an incredible thing. Okay, and is one of the all-time leading three-point shooters in the NBA. He's played in the NBA Finals, numerous wins, and I don't think it was any question to people that knew him that if he chose to coach, he would be a very, very good coach. And I think he's showing that. They play with a personality. They play with a poise. What's amazing about their team, they're shooting 27% from three at home and 43%, I think, 43% on the road, and have played at Kentucky, played at UIC, so they're very, very comfortable shooting the ball, and we've got to do a much better job of defending the three. And to me, they've got inside, they've got outside, they can get to the rim, especially with Garrison and Woolridge. His nephew Ryan is one of the tougher players we will have encountered, and Ryan Marley does a lot of things well, a lot of things right, and that makes his team better. They're young in some places, they're a little bit older in some, but they're starting to mesh, you can see it. And they pass the ball extremely well. And again, I don't think it's any accident. I think he's an outstanding coach. I think he's added some really good older people into his program to blend with the younger people that he has. They play a very challenging schedule, and they're going to be a team we're going to have to. There's really everybody that's out there is capable of making plays, and that's one reason I think they'll have an outstanding year, and one of the reasons it's such a challenging game for us.
Hunter showed some offensive moves against Louisville that I think surprised many people that watched him, but only played 20 minutes. How does he have to stay on the court longer, and do you think he needs to play more minutes for your team to have more success?
Well, he was in some foul trouble in that game.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's part of it, and then it's a fast-paced game. There's no question about that, but the foul trouble was probably the biggest thing inside of that game, knowing that we needed him. But he's improving constantly. We see that improvement coming. Last week and a half, really seen him demand the ball more, and now the next thing he's got to go do is take it off the rim. He's got to rebound better. He's got to rebound more consistently, and he's got to pursue balls. He's got to get area or balls out of his range. And when you have a wingspan like that, you really have an unlimited range. So when it comes to rebounding, so we want to see him be better there, and just continue on the path that he's on, and not try to do too much, but at the same time not try to do too little. And start to build on the confidence that we're seeing in him more and more, and that he's starting to get into games, and hopefully that'll help him have a very good year.
Coach, have you thought about playing Emmett and Hunter together a lot, or trying that to be a little bit bigger and try to address the rebounding?
Well, we have to address the rebounding with better technique on blockouts, because it's not as much the forwards as it's every position can rebound better. Yogi is good at. He's as good a blockout guy as we have. Okay, when we grade the film, he's down there fighting. He's a unique person, but you know what? The rest of them have got to do the same thing. We've got to get the same level of blockout. If the smallest guy, per se, inch-wise on the court, is one of our most diligent, get into your body, get into your legs. He's also obviously a tremendous post defender. then it's not just about the size. It's not just about the height. It's not certainly about the position. It's about the awareness and the focus of doing it every time. And that's where we've got to get better. So all across the board, we've got to get better at rebounding the ball, no matter what lineup's out there.
I guess you talked about Honor's offensive game on Tuesday, and you sort of talked about wanting to see that same aggressiveness and confidence in other areas of his game. It's sort of a simple question, but how does he transfer that? How does he take the willingness to be that aggressive to the basket?
Well, let me ask you this. How much do you think he's improved since last year?
Well, I mean, a lot. I mean,
Then let's go this. No, I'm answering your question. How much do you think he's improved since the season started?
I mean, based on Tuesday night, pretty significant.
Yeah, so I think that's the question. And every time get asked, you can't speed his process up. You just got to stay in the process. He's already a year ago. He's already played 108 more minutes in 9 games than he played a year ago. Now, there's some things that are significantly better in that, but at the same time, there's got to be even more. What would be the next step? Demanding the ball even more, rebounding more, all right, getting fouled more, I think would be a big one. Defensive rebounding, but being more consistent with the blockouts, but then really going after offensive boards. I think that's the biggest area. But at the same time, when you've got a guy that hasn't played a lot, okay, and now he's in a really strong role for him, you want to we push him in practice, and he's growing in practice, there's no doubt about that. But you don't want to make the game hard for him. You want to do everything you can possibly do to let the game come to him. But at the same time, when it comes to the rebounding, and when it comes to playing in the lane, well, then he's got to take himself to the game. But then if it's too over-aggressive, well, then we're running into a situation where he's not playing as many minutes because he got into foul trouble. So I think the bottom line, when we look back at this year, when it's all said and done with Hunter, is did he keep improving? And that's the biggest thing that we want to hold it to. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yes. So, I mean, we have to, when you're coaching him on a day-to-day basis, you coach him on a day-to-day basis, you have a vision for where he can be, but you also have a perspective on where he was. And you got to be able to balance all of that out. And he's a phenomenal athlete. I told you a year ago, his footwork had improved as much as anybody that we'd had in a year's time. Well, now that's carrying over into the games. And that's what we need to continue to have happen for us to be successful and for him to be successful, and really all the other guys to be on that same line. If everybody continues to improve at the rate that he is, we'll have a good year. Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier like the idea of having tunnel vision when you go into when you're driving or making decisions. James,
Well, really the driving is
the
the biggest thing.
James had 18 points, even though he was only 1 of 8 from 3-point shooting. Is that something maybe he has down where he can kind of see, I guess, the development of plays a little bit better?
Well, I think when the ball moves, we're a product right now. We have a lot of guys that can score points. All right, we have different guys that can make shots from the perimeter. And so what we have to be a product of, and it's really, I think, if you just had 1 or 2 guys, you still got to find a way to do this, because then it's a lot easier to hide off other people. We've got more than that, right? So the ball has got to move. And Louisville passed the ball considerably better the other night than we had. And that necessarily hadn't been, if you read some of Coach Pitino's quotes, that wasn't necessarily what he was seeing from his team. Well, the other night they did. And basically they moved the ball against us the way we needed to move the ball against them. But at the same time, we're a team that attacks the basket, and a team that needs to get to the foul line, and a team that wants to play through the paint. So when you have that, you've got to really make sure that if it's there, it's there, but if not, keep moving the ball, because we work on spacing, penetration, movement on penetration on the perimeter, dropping on penetration in the lane, all those different things, constant, getting in the vision of the passer, different ways to keep the ball alive. And we didn't do a very good job of that. So that's what tunnel vision becomes. You see the rim or you see the shot, and we need James to be able to even do more. I bet we need them all to be able to do more. And the more they do will be a product of the more others do to create for each other. And that's where the whole predetermination comes in. And when you predetermine that you're going to the rim, it better be either open or you just have one man to beat. When you don't, you've got to draw the help and make the kick and keep the ball moving, and that's how we get open shots. We took more. Some of it was because we played into their hands the other night with the challenge shots. Some of it was plays at the rim that weren't going to be there, and we practiced for that because we knew we were going against one of the better shot blocking teams in the country, and we didn't stick with our game plan. on what we wanted to do there as much, and we went back to maybe what we thought was there rather than what was really there. So it's all part of the learning experience. Veterans don't do as much of that. There weren't many situations like that with Yogi. I think he had one shot he really had to alter, where they stepped up on his, they did a great job of challenging shots. We did a good job of challenging shots when we were near the shot. When we overhelped on the ball, we gave him too many shots, and we gave him too many offensive boards.
Okay, time for one more.
I don't mean to keep beating the path back to Hunter, and maybe this isn't the case, but is there still something in those 9 games that he lost his freshman year, particularly given that it was a non-conference season, not the Big Ten season? Is there still some catch-up from that, I guess, being played a little
Well,
bit?
I don't know if I look at you. I think you could look, there's a lot of different reasons he hasn't been as consistent. Some, we had Cody Zeller and Noah Vonleh in there, over the last couple of years, and that'd be part of it. Some would have been, he didn't have as good a year last year. He got too distracted. We had the issue in February. But what I see on a day-to-day basis, all right, from him versus what I saw before, and I've said this before, in the past, so do all those things play into it to answer your question? They might. But I mean, if I say it, then it sounds like I'm making an excuse. I'm not making any excuse for how he's playing, because I think he's getting better and better. He is a day-by-day guy. Every day he comes in here right now with a very strong work ethic. Now, all right, what happens? You can look at anybody's stat sheets, and I do this case study all the time in our own programs and in other programs. Who's playing well early versus who's playing well late? And what happens is it's the consistency of purpose, the consistency of responsibility that you have to yourself to get better, and the consistency of accountability that your teammates hold you to. When they really know you can play, that keeps making it go forward. And never getting too excited about when you've done something well, or not getting too down about when you've done something wrong, and being able to bounce back. In the past, he hasn't always been able to do that. He's grown into that. That's why we're just measuring consistency with him right now. That's how I'm measuring. And when I see the consistent effort, the consistent desire to improve, then all of a sudden those things, well, he's really doing this now. Well, we've been really working at this hard for a while. Now he's starting to really feel confident that he can do it. So that's what it is. Some have been some issues that he couldn't control. Some were some issues that he did control. But now he's in a position where he can control that work ethic, that responsibility that he has, and his teammates can help him with the accountability every day. And he goes out there and he just improves. And I think he's enjoying improving because he's starting to see the fruits of it. But as a coach and as the head coach, you've got to really be able to look at it and say, okay, let's not speed this up because this is really coming. Look where it was a couple weeks ago. Or we really need to push this now, okay? Because this is what he's capable of. So some of that becomes playing harder longer, concentrating longer. Obviously foul trouble is going to play into it. His endurance and things of that nature are far greater than what they've ever been, okay? So those are the things you have to look at as a coach every day and say, okay, how do we keep going with what's going well? How do we get rid of what's not so good? And how do we get him to do more of exactly what we need to have him do so he's successful and we're successful? And that'd be rebounding more than anything.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.